Ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Are you ready?
Okay, here we go.
You're listening to the Deal Room Podcast. Join us as we bring you the inside scoop on business sales and acquisitions. Get across trends in the area and hear the industry's best recount their real-life tips, traps, and experiences. Now, here's your host, Joanna Oakey.
Hi, it's Joanna Oakey here and welcome back to the Deal Room Podcast, a podcast proudly brought to you by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal. Now, today we are talking to Matthew Grech, the director and owner of SME Business Sales, all about this really important topic of developing relationships with clients, and in particular, how developing relationships with clients makes you a better broker and advisor. Certainly, it's true from the legal perspective and accounting perspectives as well. Now, Matt is here today to talk to us from an interesting viewpoint. It can be tricky for brokers based on the way that they're remunerated for them to make that tricky decision about spending a lot of time on the front end in developing client relationships. But I've seen how Matt works with his clients and the deep relationships that he builds with his clients and the benefits of that. And so I thought this was a really interesting and useful information to bring to the podcast for us to examine what it is that can create deep and lasting client relationships and why that's a benefit. We also look at perhaps some of the questions that might create issues in people's minds when they're in this industry in spending a lot of time on the front end developing relationships, particularly where taking time to develop those relationships may not pay off in the long run with getting the business. So we talk about all of those issues and more, and really, I guess, some of the tips that Matt has in this process and some of the benefits as well. So buckle in. This is an interesting episode. Here we go. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us once again on the Deal Room Podcast.
Thanks, Joanna, for having me.
Great. I love having you on the show, Matt. I absolutely do. So today we're talking all about developing relationships with clients and how developing relationships makes you a better broker. I think this is a great topic. Maybe why don't you give us a bit of an overview of your thoughts in this area?
Yeah, no problem. Look, from my point of view, whenever I'm talking to a new client or a potential new client, and it sounds like a cliche, I put myself in their shoes and they say, okay, well, look, there's another salesperson in inverted commas coming in. What's their spiel, what they want from me, how much are they going to charge me, all that kind of thing. So I am aware that they're going to have a lot of barriers up. Is this guy the equivalent of a real estate agent who happens to sell businesses as well? Is he just going to try to get the maximum commission possible?
Yeah.
So look, it takes some time to develop that relationship up front, and I try not to rush things. So I very rarely would meet with a new client and say, okay, here's the agency agreement, sign here, and we'll put it on the market for X. That's what I reckon it's worth. It takes time to get an understanding of their business, how they've built it up, have an understanding of their story, importantly, their motivation for selling as well. Some of them feel that they need to sell because they might be in some sort of financial hardship, but it might be a short-term issue that they're having. And there have been occasions where they often say, look, I need X dollars to get out. And you ask, okay, why do you need X dollars? If it's a short-term issue that they're having, they might be better off speaking to a business consultant or coach or something to develop the business and get over that hurdle, or possibly talk to their accountant. So, look, I want to be fairly confident that they're selling for the right reason. So, as I say, it takes some time to develop that relationship, and I like to introduce myself to their accountant as well, just to find out if they've had a valuation done, anything like that. So I've got the full picture before we engage.
Yeah, fabulous. So in what you're talking about there, what I'm hearing is, and as you're saying it, I'm reflecting on many sales sort of courses or discussions I've heard in the past that talks about the best form of sale is not selling but asking questions. And it sounds to me like maybe that's a style. I don't know if you even knew you had it, but there you go. Apparently it's an excellent way of selling. It sounds like it's an intuitive way for you. But it sounds like you're really utilizing this ask questions, spend time, develop relationships before you're moving into the sale side. Is that right?
Oh yeah, look, absolutely. I think you need to. You've got to have a good understanding of what their motivations are, and really understand what the business is. They're not all straightforward, cafes or plumbing businesses, whatever it might be. Some businesses are quite left of field, and you've got to understand who the potential buyers are going to be. For some businesses, there might be very few. So look, it does take time to get your head around a lot of these businesses.
And I guess, let's call out that elephant in the room then, which, okay, well, by devoting all of this time to something that may or may not come off for you, how much of that is to the detriment of you and your own business as well? How do you work out that line? What's have you grappled with that issue yourself?
Yeah, look, it's another cliche, but it swings and roundabouts. You don't win them all, but there have been occasions where I've spent considerable time with potential vendors, met with them 2 or 3 times, gone through a few scenarios with them. If they do X with the business, what would it be worth? Gone through their financials, done essentially a free appraisal, which I'm happy to do, and that's what the market does. So I don't feel like that I should be charging for appraisals. And they may decide that, they're going to put it on hold for now. They're going to build the business up over a couple of years, and all going well, they'll come back to me in a couple of years' time when they're ready. I do stay in touch with people, so hopefully I get the listing at that time. But I may not. But it was a little while ago, I was talking to a gentleman and did an appraisal on his business, and he said, look, Matt, I need more money just to sell the business. It's not worth selling for that. I said, I can tell you what you want to hear in terms of what it's going to sell for, or I can be upfront and honest with you, and you're not going to get that money, unfortunately. Appreciated my time, and actually referred me on to one of his friends who was a similar age, or someone approaching retirement, who did want to sell. So it was a win for me at the end of the day.
Gosh, and that's a hard one, isn't it? Like calling it absolutely honestly as you see it, which some people could see absolutely to be your detriment, but you did that, you did the right thing, and then like it ended up in the sale in you getting another the right kind of client. So I just
absolutely.
What a great story. I absolutely love that. That's fabulous. And look, I guess one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, what do you think are the positive ramifications of you spending time developing that client relationship? Because I just want to reflect on one thing that I've noticed in your clients. I've noticed that you've got very loyal clients who do what you tell them. They do. Like you've got
they usually do. They usually do.
But that's not,
I have them well trained.
But you do 100%. But that doesn't happen by accident, Matt. And that's that I believe that's a reflection of the time and energy that you've put into them, into the relationship with them, because they trust you. And they feel that your advice for them is to their benefit. I think that's such an important thing. So maybe if I throw it out to you, what do you think some of the benefits are in spending that time up front to develop that relationship?
Yeah, look, I suppose the obvious benefit for me is in developing a relationship with a client, and when things go well and they're happy with the price that they achieve, obviously I get referrals, and that's generally how I'm getting most of my business right now, which is great.
That's amazing.
And look, and spending the time up front with them as well. So there's an example of a transaction that your colleague Fiona just completed for me, which is great. That particular vendor had spoken to 3 brokers. I was one of them. And this was a sale that had a lot of assets. It was about $1 million worth of assets there. And I said, you know what, this is going to be a sticking point for a lot of buyers. You've got a lot of assets. Some of them you've sort of built yourself, these fences and so on. I've got no idea what they're worth. It's hard to Google what these things are worth. We need to get a professional asset valuer in and have that done before I can go to the next step. And the vendor said, you know what? You're the third broker I've spoken to, but the only one that's recommended that. The others just wanted me to sign up on the spot. He said,
wow.
okay, let's get this done. We got it done. It took a few days and some dollars for the vendor in paying for that valuation, but it was worthwhile. And we sold it relatively quickly. It was, when I say relatively quickly, less than 9 months anyway, which is not bad for business sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. At times it felt like it was dragging on for a long time, but I think it was about 9 months or thereabouts. And if it wasn't for that asset valuation, I don't know if the transaction would have gone as smoothly as it was. So, there was a chance I'd lose the listing because I insisted on him getting an asset valuation before we proceeded. He had to cough up some money for that, but it was in his best interest, and he appreciates that.
And and then the irony is that made him decide to go with you. So wow, I just love that as an irony. That's awesome. That's brilliant. What a really good example. And I guess I'm also interested here in you talked about one of the benefits of this, close and deep relationship that you evolve and develop with your client, that then at the end of the day they're so happy that they refer all their friends. So maybe could you give me a bit of an example of what that looks like? Like where is that, give me a case example of someone who turned into a referrer that you didn't expect, and what did that result in or whatever.
Yeah, look, I won't mention any names, but a gentleman on the Central Coast who had another underground locating business. I've sold a few of those now. Yep. And he, again, retirement age, probably 64, 65, thereabouts. And nice enough guy, but no nonsense sort of fella. Man of few words, a bit gruff. and anyway, we sold the business, and it all happened quite smoothly. We got a buyer fairly quickly, so that was all good. And he referred me on to a couple of his mates. I thought, okay, fantastic. I rang him to thank him, and he's like, yeah, no worries. I said, oh, look, I'll send you a case of beer or something. He's like, no, just look after my mates. And this one guy, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it, has referred me on to 8 people so far.
Wow.
So
that's amazing. That have turned into clients?
I'd say 5 of them I've listed.
Wow.
And look, so far sold 2, I think. There's a third one hopefully selling. It's been great. And that's
incredible.
From one gentleman, but you the sort of guy I didn't think I'd get referrals from, but look, things worked out for him. We sold the business quite quickly. He respected what I told him up front. He wanted more money than what the business was worth, and I explained to him why he wouldn't get that money. And it was one of those conversations around, I need X. And I say, okay, well, I need versus I'd pay. Okay, you need to retire on. What would you pay for your business, and why would you pay that amount?
That's clever, because that's a hard conversation, isn't it? That's a hard conversation.
Yeah.
And clearly you dealt with it really well because, he ended up listing with you, selling, and then referring all of his friends. I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's, that's a real testament to you. I guess that is the proof, the pudding, that when people are sending their friends, that must make you warm and fuzzy to feel that you've had such an impact on people that they want to send their friends in, because they
absolutely
the work you've done.
Yeah, and look, and communicating regularly with clients, the obvious things, touch base every couple of weeks to let them know what's happening, and not take that typical salesperson approach where, okay, well, you know what, we're not getting inquiries, let's reduce the price. Okay, it may be overpriced, but it might be something else. We may not be marketing through the right channels. Again, your colleague Joanna is about to settle a electrical business for me, and I'd had that on the market for a long time. It had been about 12 months, and we were struggling to get a buyer for it. And we tried different avenues, advertising in magazines and so on. And I asked the vendor a couple of times, where else do electricians sort of network, or are there online forums or anything like that? And he said, oh, look, I'm actually a member of such and such. And so I rang such and such, and I said, can we advertise to your community? And they said, oh, okay, no problem. It's a free advert, and we placed an advert. Not much came of it for a little while, and then we got one phone call, and that was our buyer. so you don't know where the buyers are going to come from. I could have just been on to him about reducing the price.
Yeah.
You look at other ways of attracting buyers, doing mail outs, things like that.
Yep.
Different deal structures as well. Not in the case of the electrical one, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. And sometimes people aren't going to pay the 100% up front. Sometimes we need to do a bit of vendor financing or keep a little bit of money in trust until there's been a transition period for 3 months or 6 months to make sure that the transaction's gone as it should have gone, and just give the buyer a bit more confidence. And I find you can get a better sale price that way as well.
So it's about digging into how you develop the relationship. Obviously, we talked about the groundwork, I guess you do right at the beginning, and asking questions. And I was intrigued when you said, and I loved it when you said that part of your line of questioning is, why do you want to sell? Which is such a such a fundamental question. And working out if they're in the right place to sell. The second component is honesty. It sounds to me like what you're talking about here is you operate with integrity and honesty. So you tell it like it is, even if it might be to your own detriment. But the irony is that often loops around and turns into either a stickier client or them referring their friends in one of the examples you gave.
Yep, exactly.
And so touching base every few weeks, keeping up that client contact, getting a little bit creative if things are getting stuck, rather than just doing the easy, let's drop the price. You sort of stick with it and look for creative options. What else do you have in your tool chest there that you use to develop the relationship? Are there any other sort of things that you look at other than this is a great list so far? Actually, I must say one of the things that I observe correct me if you're wrong, I think part of what you do as developing the relationship is also staying in that loop. You like to stay in that communication loop. So I think that's part of a relationship, solidifier as well, that you want to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And really holding their hand through that process. The job's not over once a contract's exchanged. We've got to see it through till the end. And look, and sitting down with them once we've got an offer and saying, okay, well, look, we'll write the heads of agreement now. These are the things that I think should go in there, which will benefit you. These are some of the things that the purchase is probably going to ask for. So let's meet them halfway on some things, and let's avoid the awkward conversations a little bit further down the track once the solicitors are going back and forward. So let's prepare ourselves as best we can, and not just say, okay, here's the heads of agreement, flick it through to the solicitor, and fingers crossed, let's hope for the best.
Yeah. So I guess it's that hand holding, right? I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And the empathy for where they are in their own mind in the process, I guess.
Yeah, and it's especially true for those businesses that aren't doing particularly well and they just need to get out. They just need to get out of their lease or whatever it might be. And you can tell that they're desperate. They're the ones that are higher maintenance, which is fine. But you just got to be that sounding board for them sometimes. And sometimes they're better off walking away from it. Handing back the keys. And look, if I think they're better off walking away from it, I'll let them know. There's no point in paying my commission if they don't need to.
Yeah. Oh, look, that's just what a brilliant list there, Matt. I absolutely love it. Have you got anything else that we think we've missed off? I guess you can't give away all the keys to the kingdom today, but
look, no, it's just about being, I think being upfront, transparent as well, letting them know what's going on, why you're doing the things that you're doing, why you're marketing their business in a certain way, the message that I'm providing to potential buyers. So look, just keeping them up to date. And I feel that, and as you know, it takes 6 to 12 months generally to sell a business. And if you're talking to someone every week or every 2 weeks during that process, you do develop a relationship with them. And I've had occasions where something sold after 12 months, and Okay, look, it's all done. I've sent them the gift hamper saying, thanks very much, all the best. They're like, well, what happens now? Do we stay in touch? You connect on Facebook if you want.
And do you stay in touch, Matt?
With some of them, yeah. With some of them I have.
Yeah. I've got to tell you, some of I'm still in contact with some of my clients that have sold their businesses, up to 15 years ago, and I still drop notes to many of my clients. I try to drop them notes on their birthdays or, every 6 months or so. But I just, it's a personal thing. I think relationships, perhaps from the legal perspective, is something that really is overlooked for many solicitors. But it for me, and I feel like it's probably the same for you, though I don't want to be speaking on your behalf, it's a source of great personal satisfaction for me to have had those relationships as well. And there's nothing that I love more than getting an email from a client that I worked with, a decade ago and selling their business, and they're sending me pictures of, them off in Italy or, I don't know, on the, touring Australia or whatever they're doing, and for me, it's like, it's great to have those stories as well that we can help our current clients with, because gosh, sometimes for them it feels like they're down in the trenches, and it's helping keep them alive with, here's the vision, here's my clients a decade on or 2 years on or whatever, sometimes even just 3 months on, after the sale ends. So I think that's, not only is that deeply personally satisfying, but I just think it's actually a really good method for helping our clients get across the line as well.
Absolutely. And look, and just on that as well is we've talked about this in a previous podcast that we did about working sort of as a team, and we had Fiona help me with a transaction just recently and talked to the vendor afterwards, and he said, look, and also just really thanks for recommending Fiona. He said it just made everything so much easier. And he was based out near Windsor somewhere, and he drove into your office to meet face to face and shake Fiona's hand and sign what needed to be signed there. But, that actually reflects positively on me, and I might get more business because of that, because you guys have helped me out with the transactions.
Oh, that's really nice. That's lovely of you to. Thanks for telling that story. Actually, I didn't even know that story, so that's really fabulous to hear. I love it. I'll definitely pass it on to the team as well. They'll be really happy to hear that. Well, look, Matt, I just wanted to say a massive thank you for coming in today to talk all about this area of developing relationships with clients, because I think not just does it make you a better broker and give you, a much better outcome with your clients, but obviously, as you've talked about, there's a lot of possible roll-on effects as well. So all in all, great strategy. But a lot of people, and I think the importance of this is to understand that a lot of people feel like that effort up front isn't worth it. And I just think it's an important story you're talking about today in that real benefit of that effort.
And let them know up front, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be bumps along the road. It may be the most stressful thing you've gone through in your life, and it is for a lot of clients. And just let them know, we're here to help them in the way we can, but it's not going to be easy. So they've been forewarned.
Yeah, love it. Well, look, Matt, thank you so much. And look, if any of our listeners want to get in contact with you, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, the website is smebusinesssales.com.au, or give me a call, 0408 299 888.
Excellent. Now, if you're running along on the beach or you are in your commute to work at the moment, have no fear. If you've not got a pen, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is go back to these podcast show notes and we'll have a link through to Matt on those show notes. Wonderful, Matt. Well, a very big thank you once again.
No, thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Deal Room podcast. Now, if you'd like more information about this topic, or you would like to contact Matt Grech personally to talk to him about his services, or indeed if you would like to speak to any of our lawyers at Aspect Legal, then just head over to our website at thedealroompodcast.com. SMEbusinessSales.com. There we link straight through to Matt at SME Business Sales, and we also have a link to allow you to book in a free time to speak with one of our legal eagles at Aspect Legal. Well, that's it for today's episode. I just wanted to thank you so much, our listeners, for listening in, continuing to listen in. If you enjoyed what you heard today, then we would be absolutely grateful if you would pop over to Apple Podcasts or your favourite podcast player and leave us a review. And of course, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. All right, well, thanks again for listening in. You've been listening to the Deal Room Podcast, and I'm Joanna Oakey. See you next time. Aspect Legal has a number of great services that help businesses prepare for a sale or acquisition, to help them prepare in advance and to get transaction ready. We've also got a range of services to help guide businesses through the sale and acquisitions process. We work with clients both big and small and have different types of services depending on size and complexity. We provide a free consultation to discuss your proposed sale or acquisition. So see our show notes on how to book a time to speak with us, or head over to our website at aspectlegal.com.au.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.
Thanks for listening to the Deal Room Podcast. To find out more about this episode and other episodes in the series, check out the show notes or head over to our website at thedealroompodcast.com.au.